an important issue, and we need a little more time on this.
Madam Vice President, could we at least bring it to the floor, let them talk about it, what the plans are, ask some preliminary questions, and then have a budget meeting or something?
No, we're going to have a special council meeting, and the clerk is going to poll in the next 24 hours to see exactly, because there is a time situation here.
Yes, ma'am.
Time constraint. And I'd asked Mr. Anderson if he would speak to that.
I just wanted to make a couple of comments quickly, and I appreciate you all wanting to do due diligence, but I did want to be sure that the council understood. I know there was a question about whether or not the council had the authority to move on this without the permission of the 1% Sales Tax Commission. So let me be clear. The 1% Sales Tax Commission and also, the 1% Sales Tax Commission only has two legislative mandates, one of which is to approve a master plan, the second of which is to give oversight. The 1% Sales Tax Commission has no right to usurp the authority of this council to make those kinds of decisions. What's forgotten is that that money comes into the city's account. If the commission has fully approved the entire master plan, as we've been attempting to push the commission towards over the last couple of years, then what will be happening is that projects will be brought based on the approval of the commission before the council to be approved, as well as the approval of the expenditures. Then what would happen is the commission would then give oversight and an accounting of the expenditures. But in this case, that is not happening. In this case, it is an attempt to say that the commission has to grant the city the approval in order to move forward with this kind of a transaction, and that is just not true. The purpose of this particular transaction is to give the city an opportunity to do what everybody's asking, and that is to leverage the 1% sales tax money to maximize the opportunity to see more work done at a faster rate. That does not have to go through the commission. So I wanted to be clear on that, because I know there's been a lot of chatter about that and a lot of confusion. And what's happening is that an opinion is being given by a legal opinion is being given by folks who are not lawyers. Yeah. When the AG has already opined, and we can approve that the AG has already said that is out of the scope of the authority of that commission. So I wanted to clear that up.
Thank you, Mr. Stamps.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your comments. My only pause in this is, let's also agree on the approach for the 1% sales tax. If we're bringing in $12–13 million a year, I would only like to leverage, no more than a third of that, and then spend a third of it on internal capacity. Because if we just take a project-based approach, the city will look like Swiss cheese. It'll just be a project here, a project there. I believe the city is also crumbling because of lack of basic maintenance and the capacity for the city to do a certain level of basic maintenance. So what I would also like to see coming forward from the administration is let's purchase this big ticket equipment buys. If you're going to leverage, let's do that. Let's build an army. Let's equip an army to maintain the city, because our streets are crumbling because of not cutting shoulders down and doing those basic maintenance pieces. Let's use it to bring up the pay of those line workers inside the Public Works Department at a level that Atmos just can't pick the best and brightest of our line workers off on the job site. Let's use those funds in a strategic manner to get some in-house engineers who can do, some of this engineering work, so that we can lower the ticket price of these things, so we get more done and maximize those dollars. So, if I was just on a basic level, want to plan out the expenditures here, let's do a third of it, finance a third of it, but also a third of it for internal capacity. But then you have some operating money in the middle that doesn't cripple a future administration. Some folks who are going to be in our seats 10 years from now need to have a degree of working capital to work with as they're trying to execute and oversee and govern government at that time.
Madam President, may I respond?
Yes.
Thank you. I agree with your conversation about approach. And one of the things that we want to make sure we offer in this conversation is about how we've talked about leveraging, what portion of that money we've talked about leveraging when we have the future meeting, because that's important. You need to hear that we've already thought through that, and you need to hear what the philosophy is on it. The only thing that I would say about the other part of the conversation is you got to remember that this is not forever money. Right. And so it's going to be, you talk about the crippling of future administrations, and I'm going to give you a simple example. In an effort to get police staffed up, we utilized the COPS grant several times prior, which gave us the opportunity to bring on extra law enforcement officers, which is paid for by a grant. But over time, that grant money disappeared. And so the city was then stuck with having to try to support or supply that. So the conversation when we talk about not having enough officers, a lot of that has to do with the fact that we went from maybe 450 down to now 390. The other part of that is that we can't afford those others because they were not being paid for by the city in the beginning. In this case, it's almost the same situation, Mr. Stamp. So I agree with you, but we got to figure out another way to build that army, because this 1% sales tax money can't be the way to do it. Because if the legislature decides once it sunsets not to approve it again, then the city's then stuck again. Let's say we've hired an extra 150, 200 people on the 1% dime, and then we're not able to support that. So I just wanted to kind of say that as you talk about crippling future governmental bodies or whoever may be sitting in these seats at that time. So those are things we've thought about, thinking about the large purchases, and we're trying to be as creative as we can in terms of personnel on how we're going to fill those spots. So I'm with you, and you'll hear that conversation when they present whenever the special council meeting is. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you. Mr. Stokes.
Thank you so much. Mr. Mayor, first thing I want to say is I want to thank the financial advisor for not being a liar. That's the first thing I want to do. She told me months ago, I think she was coming in the airport, I was picking somebody up. I said, what about the streets? She said, we're trying to find a way to generate some funds, the millions of dollars, so we can fix the streets. I saw a couple months after that. I said, what about the streets? She said the same thing. And then I'm saying that, look, you got to have another answer. Now, they bringing it to us, Mr. Mayor, and the public as a whole got to know. Now, we're trying to use this 1 cent to leverage this 90 million. Correct. Versus
different than how we did past 90 million.
Past 90 million, we did bonds and we paying it back. I think when Frank Melton was the mayor, how much did we do on that? We did bonds. But right. This is not going to be, and I think the public as a whole going to appreciate this. This not going to be bonds coming that we got to raise money or taxes. We trying to leverage this 1 cent that we have, even though some other people saying we can't do it. And I think, Mr. Mayor, you said clearly what their legally, what they can do, what their standards are. So, I don't know. I go back to thanking the financial advisor, because now, whether this work or not, I think we're moving in the right direction. $90 million is not going to be the cure-all for our street situation, but it's going to put a hell of a dent in these bad streets. And I just hope we can find others to help. If the county come in and do a little bit, God forbid that the state will recognize that this is the capital city and they do some things to help, then we can have the streets fixed in a lot quicker manner. But thank you so much, ma'am, for being a person of your word. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Mr. Priester.
Yeah, I just want to say that everyone knows how much I hate borrowing money. But I think that this is an important transaction, and we do have some deadlines to make it happen in a timely manner. We've got to get this before the Mississippi Development Bank by March 8th, and so that means we need to have it voted on. It was sufficient time before then to get certain documents over there. So I just please ask everybody to make the time to don't put it in a committee, have a special council meeting, and if it's a lot of money, so if we need to do more, that's fine, but let's have your questions, have your things to the administration and to Ms. Jones, because this has been something that we have been trying to get done for a solid year and a half.
Thank you, Mr. Brister. Mr. Tillman, did you have anything?
The concept and strategy is worth taking a look at. My concern is this is a 16, 17-year project, and we leverage $90 million at the beginning. Just enough really just get us started. And then after this $90 million, what would be the next step in leveraging money ongoing to keep the projects moving? That's my concern.
And I think that is why we've decided to do a special council meeting, so we can
Okay.
really get to the bottom of this.
Ms. Tillman,
Yes, I'm trying to move
we
us.
want some more.
I'm trying to move us along. And my only concern is I don't want us stuck with debt that doesn't outlive the improvements. Yeah, that's real important.
All right.
Okay, so the clerk is going to, in the morning, poll council members, including the two that aren't here, and we'll set up a meeting immediately as soon as we have that number. Mr. Anderson and Ms. Jones, I appreciate you being here. I know that you came a long way. Okay.